If you can believe it, 6 whole months ago, Nintendo released this, the Nintendo Switch 2. I camped out, picked it up, took it home, unboxed it with you guys, and since then, I've already had a lot of memories with this console. It's exclusively been the place I've been playing games over the last several months, other than recently with my Arc Raiders addiction, but that's a story for another time. I love this console. I really do. I adore it, and I've had so much fun with it. However, I am going to be brutally honest today because it hasn't all been peachy cream, dreamy, gravy, groovy. I've had a couple complaints actually, and in general, it's not been as exciting of a launch year as I thought it would be leading up to the console's release. So let's dive in to my first 6 months with the Switch 2 and if I can still recommend one now going into holiday season. So to begin with, I gotta get the obvious part out the way first. How is it holding up? Is there any hardware issues, defects, Joy-Con drift? And I'm happy to say it's completely fine. If I play handheld, I'm playing with my Satisfy grip in, which holds the Joy-Cons in place. So I don't take my Joy-Cons in and out all that much. And even when I dock it, I use the Pro controller, so even then I'm not really removing and inserting these things all that much to wear them down. I will say, because I feel obligated, using the Satisfy grip when I'm playing in handheld mode is still a dream come true and makes those long play sessions a lot more comfortable and a lot more tolerable. I'm certainly docking it way more than I used to with Switch 1, just because the Switch 2 dock is doing so much more this time around, giving you that 4K, for example. It really does feel like it helps push the games a little bit further if I want to play something up on my TV, but this is still a handheld console for me primarily.
I'm here at Best Buy to find the Viture XR glasses. They have a display here. We're gonna go check it out. Wait, hold on. No, that's not why I'm here.
I've been talking about Viture's XR glasses for a while, but it's really hard to show you guys what it's actually like to experience them. But now, these XR glasses are at 200 Best Buy stores across the US, which is huge. It's a huge milestone for Viture, but it's also huge because you can now go out and see for yourself how cool these things are.
You can also just plug these directly into your Steam Deck or any other handheld. You can also buy the neck strap thing if you want to connect it to that and stream Netflix wirelessly while you're on the train or the bus or in the Best Buy.
With a 1200p ultra sharp, ultra vivid display utilizing micro OLED technology, which means, yeah, if you use it with your Switch 2, you'll be giving your Switch 2 an OLED screen to see your games with. The glasses have an electrochromic film so you can dim them and make them darker if you want. And to celebrate Cyberpunk's 5th anniversary, Viture and CD PROJEKT RED have partnered to create this really cool collab. Designed by CD PROJEKT RED's own art team, these Cyberpunk Viture glasses. They're the Luma Pros, but decked out to really feel like you're actually in a brain dance. So if you're ready to experience your new Switch 2 on a 152-inch ultra vivid screen, and you want to try a pair of these out before you buy, head to one of these 200 Best Buy locations and check them out. I also have a full video review of these things on my channel. Click the link in the description and use my code BeatEmUps to get 10% off except the newest Luma Cybers on Viture's website. So thank you, Viture, for sponsoring this video, because when I was at Best Buy, I also found the amiibo I was looking for.
Sorry, I'm watching the extended cut of Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna be a minute. Frodo!
And without harping on about the battery, because I did that in my 1 month later video and nothing has really changed, yeah, the battery doesn't last long. It's not the best. I mean, most games you get like a couple hours at best, especially if you're playing something like Donkey Kong, Mario Kart. You're probably gonna wanna keep a charger or a portable battery nearby. But moving on, when Nintendo revealed the Switch 2, I thought it looked quite sleek with just a little hint of color around the analog sticks. There wasn't a nice little detail, like, you know, on the PlayStation 5 controller, if you zoom in on the grip, it's actually the triangles, squares, and X's of the PlayStation logo. It's just like that nice extra level of quality. There was nothing really like that here. It quite literally is just a black console with a blue and orange highlight. And it got boring quickly. It was weird. It was a mix of not being all the way sleek because they tried to add the little bit of color, but also not Nintendo colorful, popping, fun gaming console that I'm accustomed to, and not enough enough color. They kind of towed the line between the two and didn't really do either, and it's a little boring. I very much look forward to a special edition of some kind, some gold Zelda one, or maybe a Metroid one down the line, just something to add some pizzazz into the console, because it doesn't inherently feel like a Nintendo console because it's just lacking a lot of personality. You know, I talked about this in my best accessories video, which you can watch here or links down below, why I had my buttons switched out and I added a texture to the Joy-Cons. It just really needed something. And if you want to get these buttons, I'll leave links down below. Not a sponsor, I just think they're awesome. Another thing that added to like the coolness wearing off pretty quickly. The UI, it's just the same. I have to imagine that was on purpose to make it feel like the same console, and they succeeded because it feels the same. It kind of just feels like 6 months ago I got a big injection of power and I just pumped it into my Switch. And I think another like part of that too is to talk about this whole ass button that the Joy-Con came with, and also this camera. Out of everything, that's probably the biggest letdown in this whole thing for me. When the Switch 2 came out, I was ranting and raving about game chat because in that first month, I loved it. I was really into it. But as the weeks went on, just stopped using that feature altogether. And it's definitely a mix of a couple things. To begin with, when the Switch 2 came out and all my friends had it, so we were always on our Switch and there was always somebody to call and there was always someone calling you. But as the weeks went on, as the months went on and people put their Switch 2s down, you stop getting those game chat calls when you're playing. And then you break the habit and then it stops. So the game chat feature for me in my life, it disappeared completely. You know, people don't call me and I don't call them. It's kind of like real life. And then that plays hand in hand with the camera. I mean, the $50 camera that comes with the console, you can only use it while docked. I bought the Piranha Plant one that I could plug into here, but you know, I wasn't doing game chat, so it didn't really matter. And then this guy just ended up being unplugged on my desk for the last 5 months. That's in part because of what I said about game chat, and also there's no games that use it. And the only games that do use it are ones that just put your face on the screen, which like, I don't really need my face on the screen while I play. I would be more interested in this thing interacting with my games, kind of like how Jamboree TV utilized it as an actual gameplay feature. Even that's a little bit corny, of course, but I would be more interested in trying those experiences. Because again, when the Switch 2 was marketed to us and sold to us, the camera was heavily featured. This is not part of the Switch 2 experience. This is a throwaway, which is really funny considering this is how the console was sold to us, and this was the part that really made it look the most different. You take that away, and then again, you're left with the Switch 1. Innovation, Nintendo. Where is the innovation? And then I wanted to buy a second dock this time around. I stream and I make content at my computer, so I just want a dock there. I got really sick of moving the dock to my TV every time I wanted to sit down and play on my TV. In a perfect world, it would have been 50 bucks-ish, right? No, $125 for an extra dock. Ludicrous. I know a lot of people probably just have one setup and it's fine, but I just think they're charging way too much for that. They got me on it, I guess. I've had a good time with the Switch 2. I really have. I really do like the console, and I've played some great games, and I've been so excited to make this video and talk about the fun times I've had over the last 6 months. I don't know where all that came from. I guess I was storing that up and I didn't even realize. Okay, let's talk about the games. I will say, I think I've done a pretty decent job at talking about every single release in one way or another. So there's videos scattered around my channel, but I want to go over a lot of these games that I picked up and what it was like playing them. I wanted to start with Mario Kart World. When I made my 1 month later video, I was still very much playing that game. On one hand, the game came out and it was very polished, very quality game. I was blown away by the animations, by the visuals, by the colors, by the 4K of it all. My biggest complaint then, and especially now, was just the content. It really is a giant missed opportunity that I hope they flesh out and they add to over the years to come. And not just with more tracks or characters, but with more things to do. And I don't consider the P-switches something to do. Those are like tiny mini side things that are next to the big thing that you're supposed to do, except the big thing you're supposed to do isn't there. And then you have knockout tour Tour and you have the standard racing, and you can't even do Grand Prix online. So it's just super limited. But I gotta say that wore off pretty quickly, and I have not touched Mario Kart World in the last 5 months other than when my godson calls me and asks me to play with him. And I say yes, because how can I not? Then we had Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think that game is honestly as perfect as it can be. I have absolutely no complaints about that title. I think it is the all-star 10 out of 10 knockout release that we have in the first 6 months. I think it's the shining star. That's the game that I recommend if you're getting a Switch 2, get Donkey Kong Bonanza. And I definitely got what I wanted out of that game, and it was absolutely what I expected it to be and more. Mwah! Loved Donkey Kong. As far as the DLC pack games, you had the Jamboree and the Kirby Forgotten Land came out. $20 extra and you got the 4K upgrade Switch 2 edition of it all and some extra content. I don't think either of those were worth paying the extra money for. I mean, especially like when you think about them as $80 games now. I also don't love that like some games are getting 4K enhancements for free, and then others are like, this one's $20 because you're getting the 4K and DLC. I don't know. I think the whole thing is a little confusing and a little messy. But the games don't stop there, because oh boy, we also got Pokemon ZA. You know, going into this year in this lineup, I was really impressed by Nintendo. Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Pokemon, a new Zelda, Kirby Air Riders, and Metroid. Big franchises getting titles in the first 6 months is crazy work from Nintendo. But I complained about Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, but I still enjoyed those. You know, I made a video recently about am I getting too old for video games. Pokemon ZA, I found some enjoyment in it, but it was definitely the most underwhelming Pokemon game I've played in a very long time, especially when it's technically a Legends game. I know it's very different to Arceus in its execution, but Arceus saved the Pokemon franchise for me. Arceus rejuvenated me as a Pokemon fan, and specifically of the game. So to have this Legends game come out and be just so underwhelming and not exciting and so downscaled from the first Legends game, the city is tiny with nothing to do and flat textures and boring environments, and this A to Z ranking system that the game doesn't even commit to. You completely skip 90% of the alphabet at some point. At that point, I was so uninvested in the story because it just skipped the part that was interesting that I just don't, it's just so unremarkable, really. But I didn't have to dwell on that for too long, because just a few weeks after that, Age of Imprisonment came out. You know, I made a whole video about my disappointments with it. And it's funny because a lot of the comments I got on that video were, oh, so people hated Age of Calamity's story and that it wasn't canon. And now when they do it so it's canon and it's the actual story, people hate that. I'll let you know. I'll tell you right now. I'll look you in your little faces right now. I never said I didn't like Age of Calamity. You go back, watch my review. I was completely smitten with what they did, and I actually had no idea that that was an element that people didn't like. You know, it was a great idea, I thought, a way of merging the first Hyrule Warriors, which was just here's all the characters and there's no story and it doesn't make sense, into, well, we're gonna have a story this time, but also we're gonna give you a lot of characters. This time it was just, we're gonna tell the actual story and there were no characters there, so we're gonna make some up and we're gonna introduce some NPCs and hope you like the couple of characters that you saw in the flashbacks, because that's all you're getting. And then it told the story that we already knew. And I know a lot of people enjoyed it and liked the canonness of it. It got great reviews, and I had comments on my video, and I have friends that like it. And I think I just went into it looking for something that it wasn't. And maybe I need to give it time and go back and expect it to be what it is, and to see if I like it still in that light. And it's Zelda for me too. So me not liking something Zelda is always a little bit disappointing. So I went from Pokemon to Zelda to Kirby. And I haven't talked about Kirby Air Riders outside of my holiday buying guide, but unfortunately it was kind of 3 in a row, because Kirby, even more than Pokemon and even more than Zelda, I just didn't get it. I have ADHD, but when I play Kirby, it feels like it's built for people with no attention spans. It feels like it's built for people that scroll through TikToks to watch the soap cutting videos and the surfway subbers. It's so high octane and it's so chaotic, and and I never know what's happening. And I just tried so hard to get it. And there are moments where I do something that's cool and I'm like, that was awesome, but I have no idea how I did it. The city trial mode, which I was by far expecting to be my favorite mode, is my least favorite. I like the concept of like a 5-minute trial mode and then you use your upgrades to go into a mini game, but the mini games are so short and there's usually only one winner and it's usually not me. And even when it is, it feels like I did a lot for a little. The racing I like more than I thought I would. For a game where you don't control going, you have a weird amount of control over the game. If you lose, it's your fault, which is a gameplay style that I really appreciate after something like Mario Kart, which feels very much like a giant rubber band. If you're losing, the game will give you a billion items to catch up and put you back into second or third place. If you're winning, the characters behind you are most likely going to catch up with you because they're getting a speed boost because they're behind you and they're rubber banding and there's not much you can do. Whereas Kirby is a lot more choose your own adventure. Anything can happen. So I appreciate the game and what it offers, but I don't get a lot of fun out of it. And then even like the top-down mode, it's like, why does that even exist? It's slow, it's monotonous. And then the solo mode, it's good. It's like little bite-sized snippets of the game as you go through a roguelike style adventure, and I don't mind that. But it's definitely not something that hooked me. And as I record this, I haven't played Metroid yet outside of some demos. I know when this video goes out on the 6th, the game is already out, and I would be having played it on Twitch. And I'm really hoping that this isn't a 4th strikeout, because I do have some concerns over this game. I'm very excited for it, and the clips I've seen of Samus in the tight enclosed spaces, shooting her blaster against enemies, it all feels very Metroid Prime 1, turning into the morph ball and solving puzzles, but there's little hints of, is this going to be a disaster? I said this as soon as I saw the trailer that had the desert. I was live when that happened, and immediately I said, this looks rough. No like nice animations, no like tire tracks in the sand. Like it just doesn't look nice, and the environments look really bland. And none of this is isolating. None of this is like the Metroid that I grew up with. Then you get into all the hands-on previews and Logan Plant from IGN saying that it's super hand-holdy and tutorialized with an NPC character like Navi that tells you what to do constantly and doesn't stop yapping. And I'm trying to tune all that out, and I'm gonna love Metroid, because as I sit here, the last 3 big releases that came out on Switch from Nintendo, to put it nicely, I'm mixed on them. I don't want to sound too negative because like my whole channel is the Switch and my whole channel is loving this thing, and I really do. It's a better version of the Switch I already love. But I'm trying to explain to you my expectations versus what is the reality. And I'm not sugarcoating it. Like I wish I could sit up here and be like, oh, the games are great, buy them all. All these games are getting good reviews, but at the same time for Nintendo, are they? Kirby, Pokemon ZA, and Hyrule Warriors all back-to-back got a 78 on Metacritic. They all got 78, which is in green, and it's considered good. I mean, it's very much almost an 8 out of 10, but it's not, is it? Nintendo, I'm used to getting 8s, 9s, and 10s. And when you start dipping down into 7, you start getting experiences like Pokemon ZA. In saying that, I still wish I could sit here and be like, I loved them for what they were, because most people obviously like them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, you know, a 7 or an 8. They'd be a 2 or a 3. So I'm going against the grain, I feel like, which doesn't behoove me beyond just wanting to be honest with you guys. I'll say that Star Wars Outlaws, again, it's like a 7 out of 10. I don't want to get into a whole like philosophical thing here, but you have like Kirby at a 7 out of 10, and then you have Outlaws at a 7 out of 10. The gaming industry as a whole is like, yeah, Outlaws sucks. Like every gamer knows Outlaws is boring, but it is a 7 out of 10. Then Kirby gets a 7 out of 10. If you say it sucks, everyone's like, that's my boy. That's Kirby. That game is awesome. Anyway, what I liked about Outlaws was just seeing what the Switch 2 could do. Playing through Silksong was awesome. No Man's Sky, getting that big Nintendo Switch 2 update and diving back into my save file and trying out the new DLC. Hades 2, I absolutely smashed that game for 2 weeks straight. I was addicted to it, and I honestly would have kept playing if it wasn't just for the amount of releases I was trying to keep up with, and I'm definitely not done with the game. I played a lot of High Online Life because it received a 4K update. Sonic Cross World Racing. This is a conversation I can have about, again, a disappointing element of the Switch 2. I've had this game physically now for a couple of months, and when I put it into my Switch 2, it runs the Switch 1 version in lower resolution and lower frame rates. And the reason that Sega gave for that is that they just didn't have access to a Switch 2 dev unit to be able to develop the Switch 2 version in time, so it's to be released later once they can develop it. That's ridiculous. They gave dev units out to random developers like the Chilling by the Fire creators. Why did they get one and then not the creators of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds? Having to wait for this reason it sucks. Although having said that, I played Chronos The New Dawn and I've ranted about this game a lot because I really adored it. It gave me Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space vibes. And again, it was something that really felt like it was pushing the Switch 2 hardware. Power Wash Simulator 2 has also been a joy to play. It's one of my favorite cozy, relaxing games. I played a lot of Story of Seasons, and again, full resolution and full frame rates. Played a lot of Bull X Pit, which will definitely be in my next eShop video. Oh, I didn't talk about Cyberpunk, actually. They did such a great job with that port. I do think it still is the best looking game on Switch 2, and I think it's going to be hard to beat it for a while. From there, you know, I have a selection of like Switch 1 games that I bought physically because they automatically upgrade for free, like Final Fantasy Tactics. I went ahead and ordered some Japan exclusive physicals for certain games just so I can have them in the collection. I feel obligated to always remind you guys why I'm still buying the game key carts, and it's because I'm an idiot. No, it's because I'm gonna buy the games one way or another, and they're the same price digitally or physically, so I may as well buy them physical and put them up behind me so I have them on my shelf. That's just how it's what I want. People are boycotting them and people are not buying them in such large numbers that are reflecting in the sales of these physicals and reflecting in the sales of the games. Nintendo knows that people don't want this, and enough people are making that big effort and not buying them because they don't want them. If it's going to change, it's going to change. And little old me being a reviewer and trying to buy these to collect them and display them and play them, I'm not gonna make it the impact that is already happening. I mean, Nintendo put out surveys asking people what they thought. I'm sure they got the responses they were looking for. At the end of my 1 month later video, I talked about whether or not I had buyer's remorse, and still no. I mean, if I was a general consumer, would I have buyer's remorse about some of these games individually? Yes, actually. I think for me personally, I would have remorse $70 for Kirby. I don't think this provides $70 of an experience. If I just bought this hoping that I would enjoy it, not really knowing what I was getting into, I probably would have buyer's remorse for this game. Might even have buyer's remorse for Pokemon ZA, to be honest. Again, $70 is a lot for a game that's not offering a lot. I mean, the camera is massive buyer's remorse. If I look to my right-hand side here, $50 for that, I massively would regret that for sure. The last thing I want to talk about is longevity from here, the Switch 2's future. I'm very hopeful. I've seen a lot of glimpses here of some really cool stuff. I mean, the actual good games aside, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart, Cyberpunk, whatever, seeing the capabilities in a game like Outlaws visually, seeing 4K 60 frames from games like Hades 2, I'm really excited to see as we move forward how developers, both Nintendo and third party, are going to utilize the hardware, push it to its limits, and give us some really cool experiences. And for as many big franchises as we've had, we still haven't had a mainline Zelda. We still haven't had a mainline Mario. To see what those games are going to look like, how those games are going to shape the image and the future, I'm so incredibly excited. I've had some disappointments this year, but I'm not letting it affect my grand total look at the console and its longevity, because I think Nintendo just tried to do a lot this year. I also think it was a mix of a lot of these games in the first 6 months. They seem to be Switch 1 games that got a Switch 2 release, or somewhere in development became a Switch 2 game. I mean, Donkey Kong was one of them as well. Pokemon ZA, obviously. So we're still in that shift over period where maybe we were getting some runoff Switch 1 games that just became Switch 2 games. And I think next year is really when Nintendo can hit the ground running. I do want to also caveat a little bit. My son was born a month before this console came out, which definitely altered my brain chemistry and my level of tired and how I was feeling about everything over the last 6 months, and even just trying to find time to play and fully enjoy my games around dad mode. And then on top of that, I spent a month of the last few months in Texas, caring for and helping my friend Billy through everything he was going through. And that massively affected me. And in general, just, you know, affected me in more ways than I think I'm ready to even accept, let alone talk about. It was a challenging 6 months to experience this console and try and enjoy this console and everything it was offering. So when I look back and I think about maybe some of these games and me not getting them and me not enjoying them as much as I would otherwise, I do wonder if all of that plays a part, and maybe I wasn't in the best mindset at certain times, or if I wasn't really prepared to fully dive into something because I was tired. You might have had this console for the last 6 months, or maybe you just picked it up. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the first 6 months of the Switch, or even what your thoughts are of it right now. To summarize real quickly, is the Switch 2 awesome? Yes. Is it worth buying? Yes. Is every game worth getting? Probably not.